And the sick part is there are people out here who are STD positive and they're intentionally infecting people without them knowing. Hey you guys, welcome back to I'll Awaken. So I just want to make a really quick disclaimer. I'm having this conversation because I feel like this is a really important topic that needs to be talked about. I'm not trying to police anyone on what to do with their body and how to live their life. However, I'm making this video because I feel like it'll be beneficial for someone, especially for the youth, because honestly, the people who are influencing us right now aren't people who should be of influence. And I feel like a lot of the youth is being influenced in a negative way, especially with social media. They're made to feel like things are okay, that certain ways of living is the best way to live because that's the common thing that's being pushed to us online. And also, this is for the youth who may not have been educated, or their parents may not have been transparent or given advice, because this can be a really touchy subject for parents, especially because they feel almost as though if I teach my kid about these things, then I'm basically giving them the in to partake in it. When in reality, nowadays, kids are exposed to so much. And I feel like it's so crucial to have these conversations, whether your kid is active or not. You should want to create a safe environment for your child to feel like they're able to come and speak to you if they have any questions, or if they happen to get into certain experiences, because kids nowadays are growing up really fast. They are being exposed to a lot. So avoiding these conversations thinking you're protecting them is actually harming them. So it's really important that we are having this conversation. So I would gladly be your virtual big sister and give you advice on things that you should look out for. So let's get straight into it. So I'm sure we've all heard about the STD rates rising and just a whole lot of going on. When it comes to life, I like to look at it as we're all just in one big bubble, interconnected by our immediate environment, but also mainly through social media. Being that we're online, the reality is a lot of people who are in the place of influencers are people who should not be influencing. And basically what I mean by that is we got rappers promoting Hidden and Raw, we got influencers selling a cat for some designer, we have red pill content creators teaching guys how to finesse girls out their drawers, expect cat on a first date, and then we have dating apps telling women that celibacy isn't the way. And honestly, I'm just flabbergasted, and I know none of this is new game, but the fact that I am now of age to finally be dating, I'm not even interested. As a self-aware 25-year-old, I can say that my discernment is pretty high, and honestly, I'm not one to be easily influenced, which is exactly the reason why I'm not actively dating. To be honest, if you don't meet my standards and if I don't see you as a potential husband, I'm not even going to waste my time dating you. If you're not being intentional about how you're dealing with me, I'm not even going to give you the time of day. And I'm not going to lie, I'll be damned if I were to go on a date with a guy and he's expecting something at the end of the night. Sir, I'm not a prostitute. Don't even try me. And the thing that I really don't understand nowadays is people are so quick to hop into bed with somebody. You don't know their health status. You don't know their hygiene practices, whether they clean or not. You don't even know the person's mental state. What if they're obsessive or crazy? And the sick part is there are people out here who are STD positive and they're intentionally infecting people without them knowing. That's crazy to me. That's next level. You gotta be a demon to be doing stuff like that. That's just downright disrespectful. And honestly, the part that be having me so confused when people be like, oh, I'm not trying to catch no STDs, so I'm not gonna be sleeping with nobody. Those be the same people who be out here just lipsing up everybody, just out here kissing any and everyone. And it's how are you so free with your lips? Do you know you can contract herpes? Herpes is a real thing. That's literally from skin to skin contact. And ever since I came to this knowledge, I don't share my lip products, and no, you cannot have a sip of my drink. And when it comes to the whole topic of STDs, yeah, you can protect yourself by wrapping it up. However, that's not 100% guaranteed. Let alone if y'all bumping and grinding, you're getting skin to skin contact. You can still contract something that way, even if it's not directly from your genital area. Whether you see it or not, you can still contract something. And I'm speaking to the women right now. The unfortunate reality of you intending on protecting yourself, there are men out here who will take the protection off without you knowing. And this is so common. I've heard of so many different stories where midway the woman finds out you have to be really careful when it comes to the person that you're laying down with. So I just want you to really think about it. If they're trying that with you, how many other people have they said that same thing to? And to the guys, just because you see a girl with a pretty face doesn't mean she's automatically clean. That girl can be full of diseases. A pretty face will get you in trouble if you allow it to. So you also need to be really careful. I honestly don't be understanding how y'all will feel so comfortable to just hit anything raw. And I'm asking a serious question, like, do y'all not think about STDs? Is your pleasure worth that much to where you're gonna put yourself at risk and you don't even know this person's sexual health? So it's really important for both men and women to operate from a mindset of no one is exempt from you protecting your health. So to the ladies, so what if he begs you to not wear one? You agreeing without knowing his health status or even how many people he's dealing with at the moment is you playing with your life. And even if y'all are in a monogamous relationship, unintended pregnancies are a thing. And you will be surprised how many men and women are so careless when it comes to just the whole idea of, oh yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the moment and I'm gonna just pop a plan B after. They be out here taking plan Bs like it's vitamin. And it's like, do you not understand the toll that those pills can take on your reproductive system? They're meant for emergency purposes, not for you to just be careless and think that it's always going to be readily accessible for you to use. So all in all, if y'all are not intentionally planning for a child, you should not be letting anybody shoot up anything. I don't care how in the moment y'all are, you should not be letting anybody shoot up anything, because the reality is you, the woman, will always be the one to have to deal with the consequences, whether you are now with child or whether you have to go through that physical, mental, and emotional pain to have to make a decision to get rid of it. That's why it's so important to be intentional and selective about who you're deciding to share the most intimate and vulnerable parts of yourself. Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health should always be number one priority to you. Laying down with the wrong person can literally mess you up in so many different ways, so why even play Russian roulette with your life like that? Some things may be curable, but some things are forever. And unfortunately nowadays, even if you're in a relationship, you're not exempt. You have to be on your P's and Q's with your partner and make sure that y'all are both mutually respecting each other to not be bringing any outsiders in. So now let's get into the cons of casual flings. In my opinion, as a person who values my mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health, and my physical health, honestly, there is no amount of desire for pleasure that's going to make me compromise my well-being to just share it with any and everybody. I personally would not enjoy casual flings because they're not emotionally fulfilling. So when something is not emotionally fulfilling, there will be no way for me to be mentally present to even enjoy myself physically. And from my observation and knowledge of just people watching, having conversations, besides the people who are strictly seeking pleasure, the reality is a lot of people are truly seeking for deep emotional connection. And the form of intimacy that they're using to fulfill that desire is through physical intimacy. But what most people don't understand is that that desire can be filled through other various forms of intimacy that doesn't have to be physical, if the true desire is for them to feel loved, seen, and heard. And as a person who's really interested in understanding human behavior, the reality also is a lot of people have a wound of not being emotionally validated at a young age. So they continue to operate from a place of lack where they seek that validation externally. So oftentimes they engage in casual surface level flings, and those people tend to be emotionally disconnected, emotionally unavailable, emotionally unstable, and some of them honestly just don't know what it is that they want, so they just go with the flow. And one thing that I really want to say is entering situations without honestly knowing your intention is going to set you up for failure. If you're being intimate with a person who's emotionally disconnected or a person who is not emotionally available, you're likely going to be left with the feeling of emptiness or even loneliness, because that feeling that you're desiring does not come from a casual fling. There is no emotional intimacy. That comes from emotional intimacy. And that's even risky in itself, because let's say you do catch feeling but the person doesn't feel the same way. If you're emotionally emotionally available and honest with yourself, you're going to feel down about the situation. So at that point, your best option is to remove yourself from that situation. Do not continue. And then in another scenario, if you're not emotionally available with yourself, you're more likely to numb out your feelings. You'll brush it off like, oh, it's whatever, I'm fine. Or like you won't even really acknowledge that you are feeling sad, which is only going to lead you into more issues, because you're only going to continue down that cycle, whether it's with that person or whether it's going to be with the next person. But then you have to ask yourself, how productive has getting yours really been for you? You will be tampering with your self-esteem. If you're repeatedly engaging in casual flings, there will come a point where you start to question your self-worth. And to the ladies, hearing that you got that good ain't enough to sustain your self-worth. With social media, we have so many examples of women who partake in the lifestyles of selling themselves for money. If they're brave enough, they come out and speak on the cons of that type of work. Oftentimes, they don't be feeling good in their bodies. They be feeling used. They don't be feeling good about themselves. And whether they're emotionally available with themselves or not, some of them may opt out of continuing what they're doing, and some of them might self-medicate just to get themselves through it. And even for the ones who have stopped, I'm sure it can be really difficult to try to regain that self-value and self-perception of yourself because of everything that you've experienced. So to the young girls, do you really want to jeopardize losing yourself from acts that you can never take back? And I'm a firm believer in, if you want to do things in your life, you shouldn't allow other people's opinions to come into play to stop you from doing it. But you don't want to be known for being promiscuous and easy to put on your back. That is something that will always stick with you, and people will not respect you for it. And I know people like to say when you're young, that's your whole days and stuff like that, and I don't agree with that. Your youth is for you to set up your life. If you tamper with that in that time period, whether you want to or not, you're gonna have to deal with those consequences down the line. So why even open those doors? And it's one thing to be judged by people, but I don't think pleasure and money should be the things that you allow to jeopardize your self-perception. You should want to be able to look in the mirror and value yourself because you are valuable. Your self-perception is one of those things that you should build up to be strong on a solid foundation, because that is going to be what gets you through this life and benefits you in the way that you see best fit. If you don't respect yourself inside, that is going to reflect on the outside in your encounters. And when people sense that you don't respect yourself, they're less likely to respect you, therefore increasing your chances of poor experiences. Now we're going to talk about soul ties, and yeah, I'm gonna go there. Being physically intimate with a person is a spiritual exchange. I don't care how you try to flip it, toss it, turn it. It's exactly that. You are energetically intermingling yourself with every person that you choose to lay up with. If you're careless about your decisions, that is poor spiritual hygiene. So I'm going to give the example. If you're an energetically high vibed person and you're laying down with a person who's low vibe, they are feeding off of your energy and you're being depleted. Have you ever known a person where like they were like this vibrant person, but then they got with a person whose energy was negative and now they're just not as vibrant as they used to be? That is exactly a reflection of what I'm trying to say. You can literally be laying with a demon and not know it. Or another example, if you're a lucky person and you're dealing with a person who has bad luck, they can transfer that bad luck over onto you. So be wise. Not everyone who seems like they're going to give you a good time is worth that experience. Also, being intimate with a person creates attachment. So biologically, our body releases a chemical called oxytocin, which is also referred to as the love drug because it's associated with trust, arousal, and just relationship building. And when that chemical is released during intimacy, it can create an attachment. So when the feelings aren't mutual, you can be left feeling emotionally confused and just even hurt. And depending on how deep or how long your interaction has been, it can be difficult for you to detach from that person. That can cause even more issues for your future connections, because then you may struggle with forming deep connections with people. So I just really want to say, if you know deep down inside that casual flings are not your thing, and that they are not emotionally fulfilling to you, and that they don't align with your goals and your values, you should not be partaking in it. I don't care how much pleasure you're wanting, it shouldn't matter. There has to come to a point where you are not willing to compromise your health, your well-being, just because you're looking for some pleasure. Like, if that's the case, go handle yourself. But you should not just be willy-nilly out here letting everybody touch up on you, because people out here nasty. Just because you take care of yourself, there are so many people out here that don't care about themselves. If you know you care about yourself, you should not be laying down with a person who does not care about themselves, because if they don't care about themselves, trust me, they're not going to care about you. And for people who are willing to play Russian roulette with their life, baby, don't let them play with yours. And honestly, if I were y'all, if you're not being physically active with a person, great, because it's ghetto outside. But also, if you are, I'm just going to share my standards, and you do what you want with that information. Maybe apply it to your life or let it fly. I don't care. But I would make sure, for one, do not just let any and everyone touch on you. Don't be out here kissing any and everyone, because baby, you can still catch STDs. Before you lay down with anybody, you should be requesting for them to go get tested, and you need to physically with your eyeballs see that sheet or see it on their phone. Nowadays people be creating fake documents, but you know, just do what you can to make sure that document is real. If you see anything is off, do not let him touch you. Point blank, period. Number two, and if the person does not want to abide by your request, they're simply cut. I think that's a little shady, because it's like, what you trying to hide? And also, even though this doesn't make you exempt from any potential issues, I would try my best to make sure that you and the person are monogamous, and y'all are only being physically intimate with each other, so there's no extra outside parties, ain't nobody being sneaky. Deal with a person who values their health just as much as you value your health. And honestly, I wouldn't be quick to hop into a relationship just for the sake of wanting to be physically intimate with a person, because there are people out here who will weaponize that thought process and get you in a relationship just to lay you on your back. Don't fall for it. Also, don't be afraid to ask the person that you are giving your body to be transparent about who they may be sharing their bodies with, because sometimes it's some freaky people out here. So if that's the case and y'all are both consenting adults, y'all should still be transparent about what you're doing and who you're doing it with. Be honest with each other. Ladies, if a guy is insisting on not wrapping it up, do not even play that game, because like I said, you are going to be the one to deal with the consequences. They can dip out if they want to, but hopefully y'all are choosing to deal with men who are worth your time. That's basically all I have for this video. I really pray to God that this video reaches the youth. I pray that it reaches anyone who needed to hear these things. Because I don't know about y'all, I don't know how the education system is now, because I know it's just bogus, but I can only remember maybe 2 to like 3 classes of sex ed in high school, and ever since then I ain't never heard nothing about no sex ed. Besides now, of course, like we have social media. Social media is sex ed, okay? Don't get caught up.